Hello, everyone. Welcome to another mess we're in. Oh, I'm a minute early. Sorry to everyone who's going to tune in there. I have Artie with me. Hello, Artie.
Hey, good morning. I'm just waking up. I've got my extremely trashy Monster Energy drink.
You drink Monster Energy drink in the morning?
So awful. I know. I'm such a trash bag. I'm so classy when it comes to wine, and I'm so trashy when it comes to caffeine.
You might. I could be wrong, but someone will tell me that I'm way off. But a Baraka might be better for you in the morning. You know, one of those. Do they have them over there?
No. What is that? It sounds disgusting.
It's just like a vitamin C tablet with caffeine in it. So it's kind of more or less the same, I guess, as a Monster Energy drink.
No, it's got to be a fizzy drink. It's got to have like
it's fizzy.
Yeah,
you got to drink it quickly. How are you doing anyway?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm okay. I mean, it's another one of those. I mean, every night is. I'm going to give you a long, involved answer rather than saying, "Oh, I'm fine." But every night is like an adventure. You never know what you're going to get. And last night, I got Jesse Singal calling me cruel, which I saw that you.
Yeah, that was on my.
Yes, it was because you contacted him, but. Like, just a quick word to explain who Jesse Singal is. Jesse Singal is a journalist in the US who writes very, I think, compassionate and sensitive pieces. He'll probably disown me even more now I've praised him, about detransitioners. And he got into trouble for doing that because, as we know, there's a lot of psychos who don't like when people mention detransitioners because it goes against the religious beliefs of this ideology that there's such a thing, even, you know.
And psychos is the right word because they went psycho on him. Yeah.
And then you kind of asked him to stand up for me, considering I've been fighting this stuff for 4 years. And he said I was cruel, and he posted the photograph of my stunt where I joined her and put on a funny face, you know. But as always, the way I see people like Jesse and also people like Kathleen Stock to some extent is, I may have said this before, but did you ever see the episode of The Walking Dead where there's two guys and they're escaping from zombies, and the zombies are coming and they're running, and then one of the guys shoots his friend in the leg, so that his friend falls down, the zombies get him and he can run off. That's basically what Jesse and Kathleen Stock are doing. It's basically, we are the good ones. You don't come after us. We're not like Graham Linehan, you know. And what I find really offensive about what Jesse said was he posted the photograph and just said, "Isn't this cruel?" But he didn't post why I posted it. The same way the Metro lied about what I did. I did that to show there were people really doing it. There were people really saying they were lesbians, and they're clearly men. They didn't even make the effort that I made. At least I tilted my head. You know,
at least you look like a glitter freakazoid from Mars. You know.
Yeah, and also, you know, the one where I have purple lipstick, that was based on Alok. Alok, who what's Alok's second name?
Who cares?
But that was based on Alok, who coincidentally is another guy who said that little girls were kinky.
Yeah,
right?
Like it was so. I was so insulted. First of all, is the sound okay? Because I'm not wearing headphones right now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And there's no echo. Sorry,
nope, don't think so.
Kind of loosey goosey. Sorry, audience. Forgot to put headphones on. Yeah, it was just so insulting where he's like, well, this guy just clearly is out to insult and be cruel to trans people. And it's like, first of all, next week we've got an entire show dedicated to trans people, Jesse. So clearly we're not cruel. And transsexuals themselves, my friend Aaron, the sacrilegious software guy, responded to Jesse and said, look, I'm a transsexual. I know that Graham can be, blunt in his manner because he's a comedian, but he's clearly, his intention is good, and this is obvious. Jesse's just not listening to it. It's so cowardly. I think here's that episode of The Walking Dead. Because it's just cowardice. It's just sheer. I think it's got to do with maybe an American kind of sensibility. Like they have no social safety net, So they're
maybe that's interesting.
Ingrained in them to like protect themselves and to stay within the horde and not leave the group, or you become completely isolated and you die. Because in America, if you get kicked out of your in group, you die.
yeah. Like the guy with the zombies, definitely. I mean, also, we've got to. You also have to point out how much more America has fallen for this stuff. Like they don't even see straight men calling themselves lesbians as an issue. You would think they would all be. Like I've been writing to Katie Herzog, whose email I have after she covered something that happened to me. And I've been saying, please let me talk about this. Please let me put my point across. And no, I get the kind of non-committal responses,
Yeah.
and it's like, it won't save you condemning me and sharing only partial versions of what I did to make me look bad. That won't save you. I don't know why these people think they're going to be suddenly forgiven by some of the most psychotic activists in the world because they throw me under the bus. It won't save you. They'll keep on lying about Jesse Singal for till the end of time.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest thing. It breaks my heart because I actually am so upset about what happened to Jesse, and as much as I don't entirely agree with Jesse, I'm sympathetic to him, and I always have been. So it really upsets me to be. I'm so angry with him right now. Literally, I literally said a teensy bit of support for Graham, and he's like, "Nah, can't do that." Like, what a jerk! Yeah. But I'm glad to hear that you're talking to Katie, because of course Katie and Jesse have a podcast together. They're best friends. They're bosom buddies. So maybe she can talk to Jesse and be like, maybe try it.
I suspect that well, I hope not, but I hope Katie wouldn't, also paint the cross on her door so that people pass her by.
She's a lesbian, so there's that. She's got to have at least some understanding that it's a much more complex issue for lesbians. Because lesbians are tied, because on the one hand they're being attacked by transbians, by AGPs, claiming to be lesbians, but on the other hand, almost all their allies and friends, fellow lesbians, are opting into non-binaryhood. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's a really difficult position to be in, to be critical of trans as a lesbian, but at least she knows that the stakes are real and high. Whereas Jesse seems to think nothing matters but trans people,
Where did he get the photograph? He obviously got the photograph of me from someone else. He didn't, as a journalist, he didn't bother looking into it and finding out what I was saying, which was, this is happening for real. Men are doing this. It's extremely insulting to lesbians. Maybe we should do something about it. Maybe we shouldn't make it. Maybe we should make it taboo to do that rather than to be a lesbian.
He made two claims about you. He said in his first tweet, it's something like, he can be cruel to people such as, and then he made two examples. One of them was such as posing as a trans woman. And the second one was being cruel to nobodies online, which I don't think is true. I don't think you've ever been cruel to nobodies online. I really don't. I think it's a bullshit claim. But anyways, I told him, citation needed. You're famous for being all like, if when journalists get insulted, you have to back it up. And he backed up those two separate claims by just showing the picture. Like that counts as both you being cruel to nobodies online. No, it fucking doesn't. And that counts as you posing as a trans woman. No, it fucking doesn't. So he has not backed up his defamatory claims against you. And all he's got is that stupid picture, which is you making a stunt that everybody who isn't brainwashed can see has nothing to do with you posing as a trans woman.
I know. They also said I posed as a trans man when the Metro said this in their reply to me when I had my sock account and I exploded it by confronting Colm O'Gorman. Colm O'Gorman, who said that the lesbians of the LGBT Alliance shouldn't have a platform. This is right. The head of Amnesty International in Ireland said that. And I had put in my bio, fun trans guy, right? Because I just thought, well, what thing can I put in there that will make people think it's not me? So I put that in. But I wasn't posing as a trans man. If I was posing as a trans man, I would have tweeted a lot about having to go to the hospital to fix the botched operation on me.
Right. Tweeting about how your bones are brittle.
yeah. Or how that the procedure hasn't actually helped my state of mind. I mean, actually, that brings us on to the other big story of the day, which we should talk a little bit about. Oh, I should say Helen will be joining us. She's just a little bit late because she has work to do, and she's just kind of hopping in. She should be here any second. But the other big story is how the Good Munchausen's project in the UK, which is Joyland Mom's organization, seemingly had this kind of surprise legal challenge to the Tavistock, where now, if you want to trans your child, you can, because apparently something to do with informed consent. Parents can provide informed consent, but it's a very confusing. It's a very confusing ruling, because we found out from the Keira Bell trial that there's no such thing as informed consent in this case, because there's so little evidence on what these drugs actually do to kids. In fact, I'm right in saying, am I, Artie, that the evidence that's actually there points to it being very harmful to kids.
Completely. It's so disgusting. It's so gross that people are fighting for this when it's just so obvious. Helicopter parents freaking out and not wanting a gay kid and thinking that it'll be safer for their kid to be trans than gay, because they're just freaking out that their kid's non-conforming. Because when you're non-conforming, that means you're going to be atypical, and parents don't want their kid to be atypical. They want their kid to be typical. So they're trying to surgery and fix and medicalize their kid into the central sort of norm. They're trying to make their kid normal with surgery. It's a disgusting thing to do. Instead of teaching your kid that it's fine to be, more masculine than a typical woman or more feminine than a typical man, and there's nothing wrong with that. These entitled bourgeois parents who are like, no, I'm going to medicalize all of this, and anyone who gets in the way is trying to kill my child. That is just so,
It's Stockholm syndrome, I think, some of them. I think some of them are being held hostage by their kids who are telling them what they've been reading on Tumblr.
God, I have fantasies of Jolie on watching this, so I could look him in the eye and be like, do you not see? There's got to be a moment where it all falls into place and he realizes, oh, fuck, I have been fighting tooth and nail for the bad guys,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, let's. I posted this today. Apologies if people have already seen it, but when the Times reported on the Tavistock, here's some things they said. Examples of cases in the report include a girl from a family with a history of abuse of females. The mother's anxiety about having a daughter was transmitted to her child, who resolved to change gender. Another girl felt, quote, deeply guilty after her brother died tragically, so she decided to give her parents, quote, their son back by changing gender. Some openly homophobic parents sought transition for their children because they were gay. And then here's the most frightening one. I posted a few quotes, but this one is one whistleblower said, one case has haunted her. All the pushing was coming from the father to put the kid on puberty blockers. Thinking back on it now, I fear that the father was a pedophile and the child was being abused. There is no suggestion the service knowingly ignored the case, and the outcome is unknown. That is who the Good Law Project empowered today. It's really shocking, and I'm hoping that, again, there's going to be a crowdfunder. We're going to have to challenge it in the courts. Are you okay, Artie?
Yes, this is the light one, so keep it light. Okay.
I know. Sorry, it should be the light one. Yeah, you're right. All right, let's move on to the pedophile in charge of Reddit. That's light.
That's good and light. At least it's not. Sorry, these stories of kids, they really upset me. Go on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, you're right. It should be that we should. We should keep the jolly one. We should keep the extra mess jolly. I think for the most part, you're right. But I wrote today that. Actually, I published a brilliant piece by Nutmeg today that kind of shows how Amy Challoner was empowered by, first of all, the Greens, then the Lib Dems, then Reddit, wreaking an absolute trail of destruction through every organization they've had anything to do with. But the interesting thing is, I have this really cool guy I know who understands the internet in a way that I never will, and he has found some stuff about Nathaniel Knight that I'm going to be releasing soon. That's really, it just adds to the whole thing. So
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically been doing a lot of deleting, and it's the stuff that he's been deleting, which luckily we have it all. I don't know where he got it. He might. I believe that a lot of this stuff kind of turns up on a site called Kiwi Farms, which is a very interesting site. The language on it is extremely homophobic sometimes, but they do their research.
It's kind of like 4chan, right?
It's a bit. It does feel a bit like that sometimes, yeah. And some of the language used on it is just horrible. But they do their research. They back things up with receipts, and they really know their stuff, you know. But this guy, I don't think he got this from there. Here's an interesting thing, though, Artie. Do you think more people know about Mumsnet or Kiwi Farms?
I think outside of the UK, no one knows about Mumsnet.
Sorry, well, that was a bad question to put to you. If Helen was here, she would have answered it right, Artie. The point I'm making is that Mumsnet is by far the website that is attacked more in the UK by trans rights activists. It's seen as a kind of a, you know, just a hotbed of transphobia. But these same trans rights activists, they don't come after Kiwi Farms in the same way. They don't, and it's because Kiwi Farms has the receipts. Kiwi Farms has all the stuff that Mumsnet can't put on their website because
they don't have boundaries. They're just like anything goes.
Exactly. They have no boundaries.
When you ease up on, it's the boundaries. It's the sort of enforcement of politeness that lets trans activists get away with everything. And this is why you incensed everyone with your stunt on her. It was such a good stunt, and it was so fucking necessary. But everyone was like, "It's out of bounds. You're not allowed to do it." But you had to call attention to this issue because they would get away with it forever and ever and ever if you hadn't. And of course, they had to change the name of the fucking site after that. They had to say it's for queer people and not for lesbians.
Did they change it after I did my stunt?
That's what I heard. I can't confirm that, but that's what I heard. Was that
I've heard that too, but I'm worried that you might have heard it from me saying I heard it from someone.
We create our own reality now.
I would love to know if anyone knows about her. Did her change their thing to a queer space after I did my stunt? I'd be very, very curious about that because from all I knew, it was for lesbians, and the men on the website were calling themselves lesbians. So that's why I did my stunt. But then I started hearing this queer thing afterwards. It's like, oh, it's for queer people. It's like, really? And also, it's for queer people who look almost exactly like me. You know what I mean? They have made no effort except to spell straight man lesbian, you know?
Yeah, they're just like, well, when I, you know, my Pornhub search terms include the word lesbian, so therefore I'm invited onto this site. Is basically
exactly. That's they're not describing themselves; they're doing a search for pornography. Yeah, no, it's. I'd love to know. I'd love to know more about that if they actually did rebrand it after I did my thing. That would be great. But yeah, so there's more stuff coming about Challoner. It's not over yet. You know, two things that Reddit really need to do. First of all, they need to get rid of Knight because Challoner was only pedophile adjacent. Knight is the actual self-confessed pedophile.
That's right. What is when Amy Challoner is no longer an admin, is no longer on the payroll, but is Amy Challoner still going to be a moderator on some 80 to 100 plus Reddits? And what about his husband, Nathaniel Knight, and his other one, Peter Swales? They need to be kicked out too. We'll see if that happens. I wonder.
I've got Helen just desperately trying to get our attention, so I suppose we have to let her in. Hello, Helen.
Hello. Can you hear me?
How are you doing? I can hear you.
Okay.
We were just talking about how the Reddit scandal won't be over until they get rid of Nathaniel Knight, who is the actual self-confessed pedophile who runs things like the Joe Biden, the main Joe Biden sub. And I believe there's lots of like young people's subs that Challoner was involved in, that Knight is also involved in. Like I need to check that for sure before.
Now, my friend who's a Redditor told me that there's one called like Our Teenagers or something like that Nathaniel Knight was a moderator on, but got kicked out So
Really?
they're starting to come out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I briefly heard you were talking about the Substack thing. That is still going on.
And they're still trying to get rid of me.
Yes, there's a lot of people, and it seems. I asked someone. I mean, I asked a number of people, why. What's the reason? Give me a particular reason which doesn't involve the words transphobia or hate. Something specific. Can you make a specific argument? And I keep on just getting sent Lavery's, blog or that thing that they wrote about you. But in there, it's such an extreme. It's such an extremely written thing, saying that he thinks that people like me are just we just deserve it because we're trans. That sort of thing. Just the whole thing is built on a complete fabrication or a complete straw man. And it's not something specific. It's you. It's you as a person. Because there was some blog defending it, saying, no, look. And I said, okay, so it's this word that you're objecting to, but the screenshot you've shown me, that this is on Twitter, not on Substack. So you think that's, so I was asking, so do you think somebody should be thrown off Substack for something they said on Twitter? Because this is something that we've talked about in the past, isn't it? About, people using the one platform sort of morality or as a reason for kicking them off somewhere else. But in the end, he stopped replying to me.
they always stop after a while. They dig themselves into a hole and then they can't find a way up. It's always funny. But like, I don't know. I mean, do you think perhaps there's also an Irish, people were saying it's because I'm Irish and that I'm blunt, which is possibly true, but here's one thing.
No, you're not that. I mean, Graham, the honest truth is you're not that. There's this thing now, it's almost a trope where people are like, okay, I understand that Graham is a little bit blunt.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that's true. I think you're just a comedian. I think you're just
Can I say something else?
That everybody has to pretend is sacred. And so everybody has to be like, okay, fine, you're right. All those precious trans women on her are really sacred. It's like, but like, no, they fucking aren't actually. Anyway, sorry, yeah.
Well, no, all I was going to say was I do think there's also, what they're doing by saying that I go too far is that they're conceding ground to the other side that should never have been conceded. It should never have been a taboo that we make fun of stupid men in makeup. Which not all trans people are, but many of them that I've been making fun of.
Honestly,
are.
if we hadn't allowed male people on fucking lesbian dating sites to begin with, we wouldn't even have to do this.
Exactly.
But that is an interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, you are a comedian, and I think we said this at the time. You're obviously, and it is really clear, I think, to me, that you're not taking the piss out of individual trans women on her. It's about the whole idea of it. It's the entirety, isn't it?
I wouldn't have a problem with any of these people if they didn't call themselves lesbians. I think that's homophobic. It's quite simple. And I would love Jesse Singal to explain to me why it's not homophobic. But he won't, because as soon as you get down into the actual details of what we're talking about, these careerists just disappear. Because the same thing happened with John Ronson. John Ronson pretended he wanted to kind of build bridges with me. And then as soon as he realized that he would have to say things like, well, no, these men are obviously not lesbians, he just fucking ghosted, And it's like they're just absolutely terrified of they know that,
That's just it. There's this narrative that trans people are all sacred. But then once you get down to it, that narrative just isn't true. And they're like, I can't face that. I cannot face the fact that I'm going to have to look someone with feminine pronouns in the eye and say, I reject your pronouns. They're just like, this is the scariest thing in the world. And they'd rather throw you under the bus than face it. And
Singal has been doing this all along. I mean, he has understood these issues for a long time. He's been around for many years, but he's always tried, but he was calling women TERFs. He's very much sort of positioning himself as the reasonable one. But as he's found, even that doesn't work. It doesn't work.
That's the thing. It's like he's the guy in The Walking Dead who shoots me in the leg to get away from the zombies. But the zombies just ignore me. And they just kind of run after Jesse. And he doesn't realize you can shoot people in the leg all day. They'll still come after you. You know?
What he doesn't realize is how bad it's going to look 5 years from now when everything's exploded and we're looking at who was right all along. And there's Jesse and his history of shooting everyone else in the leg to get away. Instead of proudly, confidently standing up to this issue, he's been a coward about it. Like I was saying last night, I think he fell into this by accident. He doesn't strike me as the kind of person who actually would have been critical of cancel culture if he hadn't himself been canceled. You know, he got canceled, he got attacked, and now he's like, you know, he's almost built a second career out of criticizing cancel culture. But the truth is, I think but I think Jesse believes in cancel culture. I think he's very much a coward. You know, he's very much somebody who doesn't. He's not the kind of person who, out of principle, who just is naturally the kind of person to be an upstander, to speak up against groupthink.
I have to say, it is working for him. You know, he's still a highly, you know, successful journalist and so on. You know, it's just that I just wish these people would just for 1 second pause before chucking other people under the bus. You know, it's like they know the quality of the opposition. They know the kind of people. Like, I'll give you a good example is that person who's always kind of calling Jesse, who works for Media Matters. What's their name again?
Kitty.
Huh? No. That's his partner. Oh, what's his bloody name? Anyway, there's a guy who works for Media Matters, and he's trans-identified. And he was one of the first people who, when I was literally recuperating after a cancer operation, and I had a scar that suddenly decided to kick me in the stomach every time I moved, started tweeting at me that I should immediately stop saying the things I was saying. You know, things that I've been thinking about for a long time, things that I planned, things that I knew would get me into trouble, but I wasn't. Oh, that's it. Parker Malloy. Yeah, Parker Malloy basically goes around to people saying, do you know, Parker Malloy did this in real life. Someone told me they went around their office and said, do you follow Graham Linehan? And they said, yeah. And they showed them the DMs I did when I was on my hospital bed, where I was saying, fuck off, Parker, I'm fucking recovered. And said, you know, you should unfollow him. And went around telling people in real life to stop for people to stop following me on Twitter.
This is really interesting, because this leads me on to something I was about to say, which is I saw Parker Malloy yesterday on Twitter, and they seem to have led a woman called, I don't know, a blue-ticked woman called Helen Peterson into saying that she would now stop publishing. You know, she said, I joined Substack and accepted the pro deal before these dudes were on there. So no, what can I do? Push hard for transparency and clear regulation of hate speech. And Malloy says, take a stand and stop publishing anything until they get rid of Linehan. And then she's like, oh, I stupidly hadn't thought of this. It's a good one. And I think my readers would support it. So she's now being coerced into saying that she will stop publishing.
Oh, these people
it's like, it's incredible. But I want to see what they do this week, giving specific calls for myself and others with Linehan. And I'm going to get in touch now and see where they stand. It's incredible.
Amazing. I'd like to see them get rid of me right now, when I'm the only person who's been writing about Challoner and has been absolutely ringing the alarm bells about Challoner for years.
Yeah, that timing would be awfully suspicious, wouldn't it? You're finally people are taking action against the pedophiles, and of course, suddenly you get shut down.
But it's a little bit worrying to me that these calls to Substack seem to have increased in the past couple of days, which is really quite frightening, given given the story that you have been banging on about forever.
But having said that, I do think that that's being noted by people. I think people are beginning to think, hang on a second, what exactly is he saying? That so, you know, I think, you know, as I say, for some reason Jesse just didn't decide to do this. But if you look at my posts about the her stunt, you can see that I was, you know, making a very serious point about men calling themselves lesbians on dating apps, which is homophobic.
Yes.
So the fact that
somebody on Twitter said, like, you're criticizing Graham for impersonating a trans woman. But what about all those other men on her app? They're doing the exact same thing,
That's the thing. That's what I mean when I say the cult. America is so enthralled to the cult, and they've given up so much ground. I mean, it should never. One of the things that John Ronson got me at was sharing the photograph of, I can't remember their name, but it was like this ex-serviceman who was on a college basketball team with all these girls.
Yeah.
John, doing the Pledge of Allegiance. John said, "Oh, I don't know. I just felt they were doing the Pledge of Allegiance. That's what made him upset at me sharing the photograph." Like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Here's the reason that you got upset. You got upset because it's taboo to share those photographs in your stupid adopted country. That's why you got upset. When I started sharing those photographs, it was even more taboo. And the reason it's taboo is because it's a very clear sign of what's wrong. It's a very clear sign of what gender identity is doing. You got a fucking bloke in his 40s or 50s who's on a team with a bunch of college basketball girls, young girls. Yeah. And John's attitude is, he was doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Who the fuck cares what he was doing? He was on it's like all he could see is the bloke. He cannot see the girls. The girls are invisible, Sorry, I'm getting excited.
I made a point last night because I think everybody's so scared to talk about this issue because it's LGBTQ and it's sacred. So I think I'm in a bit of a unique position in North America because I am gay and I experienced dysphoria and I worked at a trans bar and I'm surrounded by trans people. So I think I'm a lot more comfortable being critical of this because it's not novel and new and sacred to me. It's the air I breathe, right? But it's just yesterday, Benjamin Boyce posted his interview with you, and I was so impressed with your candor and your frankness, critical of gay activism and gay politics, that you're not gay, but you're such an ally to gay people. You don't feel like you have to tiptoe around the issue. You were just confidently saying, look, there are some issues. And I thought that was something that I was very proud of you about,
Oh, thank you, Artie.
And just today it's come back because this is what's going on with the trans issue. People like Jesse and John Ronson, they're tiptoeing around LGBT. They can't criticize that 40-year-old man on the basketball team because they think they don't have any right. So it was like perfect timing because it was just yesterday I was saying, look at Graham. He's an intelligent, reasonable man who knows how to be an ally to gays and trans people and knows exactly and therefore is confident enough that where he knows when to openly criticize because he knows where he stands and he knows that he's a good man, right? I wish Jesse Singal and John Ronson would take a cue from you. It's okay to criticize LGBT if you're not LGBT, if you're an intelligent, reasonable man who just opens your heart and knows how to be a good ally.
Yes, because we've seen how this sort of untouchable thing where it leads to. We've seen it like that post earlier by Nutmeg about the whole of the the sort of the lineage of Challoner. Where they went and how, and they were in the Green Party and then they lived. And it makes really, really interesting reading. And everyone is, here we have, it's trans. So, let's celebrate them, hold them up as a pinnacle. We'll allow them access to everything and everyone and information and, allow them to say whatever they want and sort of champion what they want because they are seemingly untouchable. And this is a massive problem. Absolutely massive. And it's incredible that it has been allowed to go this far and that it's taken sort of so much activism and hate directed towards people like us in order to actually just bring this issue to light.
That's the thing. I mean, people, you joked earlier about this being our second careers, Helen, but the thing is, I'm not making that much money off this. I'm basically getting by, But
imagine you made more from TED.
Yes, I did. When DVDs were a thing, I made quite a lot from TED. But all that's gone now, and I do need work to survive, So this is not like the kind of work that I would do if I wanted to get much further ahead in my comedy career. In fact, it appears to be having quite a detrimental effect on my comedy career for some weird reason. But the thing is, I have to do it because it's the right thing to do. And these people who think that you're not connected to this issue, it's like, don't they have any mothers? Don't they have wives? John's married. Why isn't he standing up for his wife? You know, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful to let the women in your life suffer this humiliation. I saw the what's it called? It's some Irish website, the something I can't remember what it's called, but it's a news website, and it has a report on a paedophile who's captured with thousands of images of children. And of course, it says a woman was arrested today. How dare they insult women in that way?
Yeah.
That's why I feel completely confident in fighting this.
In the sense that like women and gays are this other, you know, they're a specialized, they're a special interest instead of like, you know, the mainstream of the population. I got a little taste of that a couple, you know, and we're seeing how people just don't care about gender non-conforming little boys. And how upset I was, like that video with the guy testifying that that was shared by all these progressives thinking it was virtuous.
Oh God, the right-wing conservative Christian who didn't let his kids play with girls' toys. Patton Oswalt thinks he's great.
The calculus people are doing in their minds is that, okay, well, this child is probably going to be such a feminine boy that, you know, you're probably right, but he probably wouldn't have had a sex change if he had grown up in another generation. But we're in this generation and we sex change these kids now, but he'll learn to live. He'll just be fine with his penis missing. He'll adapt because he's feminine anyways. There's this sort of attitude that like, they don't matter. They're off in the margins. And I was thinking about that and mulling it over. And then I had this aha moment where I was like, women deal with this all the time. This is what it's like being a woman. The things that fucking affect you just seem to be just a special interest, a thing that you don't have to put too much thought into. Yeah.
Well, that's why. Again, sorry, Helen. Just
it's true. But
talk it over.
You know, men really do care very much about their penises. It turns out. So it is quite interesting how there's a sort of set of people that they really don't care if they get them removed at childhood.
That we don't count as,
you know, effectively by puberty blocking.
It doesn't matter if I grew up with a penis because I was such a feminine boy. I'd be fine without one. I can't tell you how terrifying that is to me. It makes me want to scream. Makes me just well up with, you know, just terror. Yeah.
Because the first time it happens, you realize, oh no, this is a fantastic thing I have at my disposal. You know, the moment when you kind of, you know, grow up, let's say.
My showers went from 3 minutes long.
To an hour. It's like, and these fucking bastards are denying kids their future sexual happiness. Not only, it's not just a sexual thing. It connects you with yourself. It connects you with others. It's a hugely important thing. And today, the fucking Good Law Project made it easier to.
You know, and you can be standing up.
Sorry, I thought you said you could be standing up. I thought, wow. You know, that's not one of the ones I would have gone. Yeah, so you can also do it standing up. But it's
yes, that good law thing that is interesting, isn't it? There's the rather horrid language of it as well. The whole sort of loving parent thing. I'm assuming that this is something that's already in law. Sorry, water.
Is that someone going to the loo or having a long shower?
There's a water pipe here.
Okay.
It's gone now. Yes, there's
glamour. The glamour of this show.
Oh anyway. Yes, absolutely. This room where I spend my life.
Anyway, go
on. Yes, but that wording is quite unpleasant. The loving parent wording. However, it's possible that it already has a precedent in law, and this is, you know, this is where it's come from. But it makes for rather unpleasant reading because, you know, you can just imagine a sort of a Munchausen sort of loving parent sort of as part of that. And it is a little bit worrying, I feel. But again, you know, it's still the fact that, you know, it's there for the children. I mean, it hasn't overturned anything. It's just it's brought it in line with the rest of how you know, sort of a 16-year-old works. So I'm not too upset about it.
But, good.
But the wording is unpleasant.
Sometimes I think Good Law Project is kind of doing things that just make. See, I could be wrong, but I would say there's a lot of what I would say Munchausen parents who have something to do with the Good Law Project, or certainly funding it. And I would say that you also have parents who are being held hostage by their kids, who are fucking telling them that, oh, you're gonna have to do this, or I'm gonna kill myself. So I think sometimes there's a lot of furious activity just to look like they're doing something. Would you say that this might be the case, Helen?
I don't know. I mean, from what I've read, this is how the law actually works for everything else for consent. If a child can't consent, a parent can consent in their stead. So it doesn't seem unreasonable. There is a problem, though, that there are a lot of seemingly, this seems to be an area which attracts parents who might actually enjoy the attention, unfortunately. So, I do think they have to be wary of that. But
yes,
we've been saying this sort of thing for years anyway.
How do we get into a world where it's virtuous to ignore dangerous people? Like the Good Law Project kind of acts as though there's no such thing as a Munchausen parent. And people act as though there's no such thing as a predator. We're like safeguarding. It's not cool to bring up safeguarding around trans. It's not cool to bring up dangerous parents. Like, I thought we should always be emphasizing that, of course, there are going to be Munchausen parents. And that's an important part of being a parent of a trans person. But instead, there's just this like it's virtuous to pretend. It's almost like, remember, somebody invented this new term recently called what do they call it? Luxury beliefs.
Luxury beliefs. Yes, I've heard.
I love that. It's taken off like wildfire in my head. Luxury beliefs. This is a luxury belief to say, well, I live in a world where predators don't matter. I live in a world where I can use whatever pronouns I want around trans women because, I live in a magical world. I live in a world where, it's just so insulting,
And it's just, head and sand stuff, It's really there's a creature in a early Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book who's the quote is, it was so stupid that he thinks that if he can't see you, then you can't see him. And that's what these people are like. They think that if they maintain this kind of magical belief system, that everything will just kind of sort itself out. Like the John Ronson. When I spoke to him, he scoffed at the idea that there were homophobic parents bringing their kids to the Tavistock. He said straight out, "I don't believe that."
What a fucking luxury belief. Instead of saying, "Of course, I'm a decent man and I understand that the world is hard for gay people and there are a lot of homophobes in the world and we need to address it," which is what a normal liberal progressive person would say. He's like, "No, I'm liberal and progressive by saying that I just don't believe homophobic parents exist."
It's because his mates. It's because his mates aren't homophobic. This is always the what it comes down to. It's like privileged people giving away rights that they have no right to give away. It's like I've said this before about I remember disgracefully people like Carrie Lloyd and Aisling B and Sarah Pascoe, I think it was, signing the letter opposing what J.K. Rowling said. Again, one of the most disgusting betrayals I've ever seen. But the thing is, as I always say, the reason they think it's all fine is because they just hang out at the Groucho Club. Where if there were shared spaces, if they weren't single sex toilets, then that would actually suit people because they could take cocaine there,
Exactly.
But it's
You're
like
all going in and doing blow together, so they don't give a shit if it's a men's room.
Exactly. But in a shelter, in a rape crisis shelter, in a homeless shelter, these things are very different, and they don't give a fuck because they just don't care about people who they can't see. Same as in Ireland. In Ireland, you'll hear it said a lot amongst trans rights activists. Self-ID hasn't been a problem. And that's simply because women in prison are invisible to them. They don't even acknowledge they exist, And when you bring it up, they do what they did with you, Helen. They just disappear, It's the most. I
have to disappear. It's
okay.
Oh, okay. You've got to go to work.
You two carry on. Love you both.
Love you.
Okay, bye.
See you
No.
soon.
I just want to say one quick thing. Amy Challenor is a he, not a she. I had a brain fart last week. I called him she the whole time. I didn't even realize till I rewatched the show. And I was like, who's calling him she? I can't believe it. It was
It's
me.
very understandable.
Take
It's
it
very
back.
understandable.
He's a he.
All right. Bye, Arnie. Cheerio.
I just wanted to say before we go that I had checked the sort of feeds of some reasonably prominent trans activists. Hadn't really no mention of Challoner.
Really? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I heard that the failed comedian suddenly became interested in his home life for the first time in 4 years. You know, it's like, they don't really like talking about it. Wonder why?
Yes.
You know, it's interesting. But the first time I was the time I was very significantly cancelled in Ireland was when I started exposing Challoner. You know, and it really is just like the same as Savile. It's like, you know, anyone who kind of says, "Oh, hang on a sec, this is a bit dodgy," is ostracized, threatened.
It's very Savile-esque, isn't it? That whole thing, the untouchable, just access to everywhere because special status. Can't say anything. It's just I can't believe that people haven't learned.
I know. It's just the same things over and over again.
The Redditors actually have just learned.
Yeah, although then again, I understand that the Redditors are still calling women TERFs and all that, and I don't think there's any big push.
It's not going to change overnight, but it's something.
That's true. I just hope that Redditors will get gender critical back. Get those women back. There was 65,000 people on that sub. Get it back, and then maybe we'll believe that you're changing the culture in there.
Yes.
But at the moment, your culture is designed to protect men like Amy Challoner, you know? So, yeah. Anyway, listen, that seems like a good place to end. I think we've done it quite a neat show. Are you happy? Are you happy that have you said you're all, Helen? I mean,
yes, it was the Substack thing that I'd been really seeing sort of happen, and that ridiculous, you know, the ridiculous lavery, so over the top, you know, just built on foundation of lies, because it has to be, because if they just concentrated on what you have said, there's not enough, is there? So they can't. They can't.
And they never bring up the things we've done. You know, they never bring up things like, you know, nailing Challoner years ago, you know, raising money for Vancouver rape relief. They only find something that they can use against me, and then they amplify the fuck out of that, you know?
Yes, it's the amplification. Absolutely how it works. However,
anyway, I didn't want to end on another bit of...
No, you know, so let's end on a happy note. That was great.
Yes. That was great. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. And see you Wednesday. Bye-bye. Oh, for the Trans Day of Visibility. So don't miss it. It's going to be great. Some of our old friends are going to be there. Okay, bye.
Bye.